Okay, hi everyone. I'm Marisa Mannheim. I am a member of the asset team, and you can see at the bottom the names of the other asset team members who will be facilitating this workshop today. Advance. Great. So here's a picture of the extended asset team. Actually, only some of the members, not everyone could make it. So the asset project is funded by the National Science Foundation Convergence Accelerator Program. We're participating in Track K, which is entitled Equitable Water Solutions. We just completed phase 1 and we're awaiting notice of our phase 2 funding applications. So please, fingers crossed for us. Early on in phase 1, we decided to undertake the collaborative design of principles for urine recycling. The goal of these principles is to try to ensure whatever strategies we invested our energies into would actually benefit humans and the environment. So we kicked off the process of building out these principles by inviting environmental justice, eco-sanitation, and rural sanitation advocates to share their thoughts. And then we iterated the design principles several times with our asset team and extended asset team members. We ended up with 7 principles, which we separated into goals and aspirations. And these will continue to grow and change as we put them into use in phase 2, we hope. And we can share out the link to these design principles once we're done with this workshop. We don't want to distract you all right now. So the goal today is to share these principles with you, check, and ground them in your real world experiences as the body of knowledge and practice on urine diversion. On the next slide, I'm going to explain the process for this workshop, but first I wanted to let you know how we're going to be documenting the discussions today. So the virtual breakout rooms will be recorded using the built-in Zoom recording features. But the in-person breakout rooms in Vermont will have will have actual human note takers. So thank you so much for the volunteers for that. And the purpose of that documentation is to record the themes, stories, ideas that you share today, but names and organizations or other identifiable information will be left out of the notes. And we also will be providing a link to a form at the end in case you think of something later today or tomorrow and think that it's relevant, you have a way to continue the conversation after. So after this slide, you're going to be moved into breakout rooms that have been assigned 2 or 3 of the design principles. So we'll end up covering all the design principles. And the way this will go is you'll start by introducing yourselves. After that round of introductions, you're going to silently read each of the prompts and the assigned design principles and then discuss. We'll close with separate virtual and in-person report outs. So we're not going to come back together, all of us. But in the report outs themselves, we're just going to be asking each group or individual, depending on the time, to share one key thing that they learned or discovered or realized today during the discussion. So just one note here is in the facilitated discussion, we're going to ask people to step up if you're on the quieter side and step back if you're on the talkative side to ensure that all of your group members have a chance to share. And before I move on here, I just wanted to see if there's any other requests that anyone would like to make sure that this is as positive an experience for everyone as it possibly can be. Okay, well, if there aren't any more requests or questions, I think we can move into our breakout groups.
I kind of want to pass this off to Susanna here because she brought up a really interesting point about the plants in Germany, and I don't want to misspeak in resharing it. So Susanna, if you would like to say what you said at the end very much there because I want to get it from you.
No problem. I just mentioned that in Eastern Germany, after reunification, we had a lot of people coming from the West who sort of convinced our communities to install very large scale and invest in very large scale wastewater treatment systems. And then our industry sort of disappeared in the following years, so they were totally oversized and didn't treat that much water anymore, and they didn't work that well. So basically, my thinking was scalable can also mean repeating small units in a row, and so you're able to just switch them off and on as they are needed or not. Was that the point that you wanted to mention?
Yes, yeah, that was exactly it. Thank you. And I think I got the main points there. If there's anyone else from my group who something else stuck out to them that they want to share, they can go ahead and do that. But otherwise, I think that was our main points of discussion.
Does anyone else from group 2 want to jump in? I see Ole Eriksson talking, but I don't think he's talking to us. So, Haley, would you like to report out for group 3, please?
I think
Sure.
Ola has just forgotten to switch off his microphone, switch on his microphone.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there
Sorry
you
about
are.
that.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
wanted to mention one other thing that was discussed in uh, group 2 that we don't often think of, and I've actually experienced that here in Portland. We visited the PAE Portland Living Building Challenge building, where they've designed this $1 million vacuum toilet system with 18 or 20. I think there's actually 20 Phoenix digesters, and they do a lot of urine storage and like that. But the designers, it's new for them too. They've never experienced this. So it's very essential if in these complex systems to have the engineers that actually use the systems. And you don't need that, of course, with the Joe Jenkins bucket loo, the container-based sanitation that is so simple. But when you get complicated, you need these technicians. And what they actually found is many surprises. Now, many of you probably have heard of the failure of the Bullitt Center in uh, Seattle. The engineers designed it, and they had these ideas how it would work, and it just didn't turn out that way. So they abandoned the foam flush toilet systems. And PAE, they're just starting to use their systems now, but they're having to deal with a lot of issues that they didn't think of ahead of time.
Yeah, great point. Thank you. Haley, are you ready to go with the report out for group 3? And if people didn't notice in the chat, Julia had give us a notice that she's okay with our panel running a few minutes long. So we'll probably end at about 5 past the hour.
Great. Yeah, I guess the first thing I want to say is our conversation touched on many of these other principles. And if there was there's a really huge storm rolling in. Can you hear me? Okay. The education was key. In the first story, we heard about the Eco Lodge in Ecuador becoming a place that people talked how fabulous the toilets were, but some of that was because they were made beautifully and that there was a lot of education integrated. And so some of these extra, maybe not necessary things to the function of the toilet were necessary for the cultural buy-in. Another story we heard from was coming from Kenya, and that a key part of the theme of the story was also education and training to directly address some of the cultural taboos around handling human waste. And so having education around some of the alternatives, which I think has been mentioned in some of the other groups around the pesticides and the herbicides, and just the need and the clear benefits actually were part of supporting the transformation and it being culturally acceptable. In both of the stories that we heard, it was highlighted that it needed to be the experience, that seeing that it worked, experiencing that it didn't smell, having just a positive overall experience was a critical part of the success of those toilets. And I'll add another thing. In Kenya, some of the approach was to go into the community and see what would be affordable and to look at the resources that were available. So for instance, a community that was making bricks, using those bricks, being mindful that that community also needed to be careful because there are termites in the region, and so not using wood with the bricks, but using metal. And then a organic material that was also local. So really having I guess you could almost say like a place-based toilet as part of that acceptability. And then the last point I'll mention is that in both story situations, there are now accessible toilets for handicap, being able to think about the ramps, but that came after the initial design. So a little bit of like retrofitting, but seeing that there was that need. I think that covers it all. And Andy and Wamala, if you want to add anything, you are welcome to.
I think that's exactly what we discussed, really.
Yeah, no, sounds good. That's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
If I can say something, I actually came late into the group, and I was actually about to report about my experiences in Adjumani in the northwest of Uganda. And I was working there actually for GIZ, and we were promoting ecological sanitation toilets of the double vault design. And there are problems, that's true, but I was actually also surprised about how interested people actually were, you know. And I think there is also quite a variation in terms of regions in Africa. You cannot generalize. The cultural backgrounds are very different. So in that particular case, I was actually dealing with a tribe along the Nile River called the Madi, and they were very open to the idea. And actually there were also some economical reasons behind it, because the alternative are actually pit latrines. And pit latrines, they fill up, you know, after some time. They could collapse even. There is a lot of rain, they can collapse. Whereas these ecological sanitation toilets are durable and they are easy to empty. So for a pit latrine, to get it emptied is quite a fortune. And in a lot of cases, it's actually cheaper to just build another one. So there were strong economic reasons actually for you know, for getting yourself an ecological sanitation toilet. But there is something actually also to keep in mind. They will work if somebody is actually responsible of that toilet. And if, you know, people have basically made an effort in terms of money and construction to get that toilet. And if it is just donated, a lot of times it doesn't work. And well, in the case of public toilets, it's actually a different story also again, because there is not much of a responsibility unless you have somebody sitting next to that toilet, in charge of that toilet, then it can work.
Thank you
Well,
for that.
thank you.
That's okay. Thank you.
I think what that speaks to me, in addition to the value of that story in and of itself, is just the importance of taking into account local context and trying not to make any assumptions about how or why a certain system will be effective. And one of the themes that came out of our session was just the importance. Oh no, it was the theme that I think this connects to what Suzanne was sharing, which is just about the importance of involving engineers and the end users in the design of the system. So that's another key theme I think that's coming up across all of these. I see Jamina popped in, so that's probably our signal to wrap it up. And hi, Julia. So just to leave us on this last note, so we can put the storytelling form in the chat if somebody can do that for me. And then also we've got the design principles themselves. We can share the link to that as well. And if you'd like to connect with Asset, I put my own email address and Jamina's email address, and we can be your points of contact and connect you with other people on our team. I hope that you also made some connections with each other during this session. It was a great round of sharing and storytelling. And if any new ideas come to you afterwards that you'd like to share, here's the storytelling forum link. You can use it throughout the conference or later on, just to add to this kind of inventory of stories that we're collecting around the tensions and opportunities revealed through the discussion of this set of design principles. So like we said, we're going to be moving forward with hopefully applying the design principles to our own work in phase 2. They're available for you to use, adapt, destroy, and rebuild in your own way as you go about your own work as well. And we'd love to hear how that goes for you. So anyone else from the Asset team want to jump in here with anything that I forgot?
It was a great session. You did good. Thank you all for sharing.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing your stories. It was really lovely to get a chance to hear from more people in this community.
I concur. We had a great session here in person as well. So thanks for everyone who participated in that, and I hope the tech session went well as well. I hope we hear some tidbits there. Sean, I'll hand it off to you for closing.